Hello, my name's Mr. Sean, and I'm going to try and teach you something today with a bit of a ramble, a long ramble, long ramble. But who likes, hands up if you like camping? Me, I like camping. I don't know if your hands up, I can't tell. This is a photo of Burleigh from 1932. Let's double check that. 1932. Thanks, Trove. 1932. Christmas, Burleigh. Lots of camping happening. Now you can have a look at the photo. You can see cars, canvas tents, wooden posts. Let's zoom in because we've got the power to zoom in. You can see lots of people about. Look at all these camping tents on the beach, right on the beach. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Look how many people there are. Look, there's cars about. Oh, look, and then look at all this empty grassland. Beautiful bush to explore. If you've ever been up here, you know about Cock Rock. No further statements about that. How cool would that be? Just go up there. I don't know. Actually, did that exist back then? I don't even know. How long has that rock been there? It's a nice rock though. Anyway, I've got a question for you. Why are people? How is this happening? How is it at Burleigh? People are just camping right here. If you would do that now, if I was to pitch up a tent here, I would probably be arrested. I would definitely have my tent taken down, maybe given a fine, but possibly even, no, maybe not arrested. That's probably a bit too far. How are people doing this? Why are people doing this? How did this come to be? That is the question for this ramble. Is essentially focused on this photo. How did we get here? Why are people camping here? Why are they camping like this? Who are these people? That's the focus for this video. I wrote a little essay about this camping culture in Burleigh, and I'm going to kind of ramble my way through that essay. At parts I might quote it, at parts I might just ramble and look at photos and just talk about the interesting things that are in the photos. Let's start with this photo. This photo is from the 1930s in Brisbane, in Burleigh. And I think it's pretty interesting to look at. Now, Australians love camping. And in modern day camping, I personally love camping out in a tent, sleeping in a tent, you know, somewhere in the forest, somewhere cold. I do like the cold. But as you can see here, camping with a tent, bringing your car, has kind of always, well, not always, but for a very long time has been a very popular thing in Australia. But let's look at this picture in Burleigh. Oh. Now, if you know Burleigh, you know that nowadays it looks something like this. You can see we've got still our beautiful beaches. We've got buildings, very popular place now, with roads and car parks and grass areas where you are not allowed to drive your car on. That would be crazy. We would not do such things. We've got lovely seating areas. It's all very well developed and such a nice area. I love Burleigh Hill. It's great. Who doesn't? But back in the day, when things weren't so established, you can see that there was kind of, it looks a bit crazy, looks a bit chaotic, but how cool is it that people are just camping out on the beach? Just drive up with your car, with your tent, with your family, pick a spot and have some fun. You can see here there's lots of people about. I'm not sure what time of year this photo was taken in, but I'm going to assume it's probably something like January, something like Christmas time. Probably. Probably should know the exact date, but let's see if it says it on the bottom actually. Nope. Oh, Christmas. Esplanade at Christmas, Burleigh, Queensland. How lovely. So yeah, it is Christmas. You can see that people still, well, it's not still, did also love camping in Christmas time in Australia. You can see there's lots of different types of tents. You can see there's some basic ones where it's kind of just like wooden sticks, a little canvas fabric, pegged down, Bob's your uncle, done. There's the home for the couple days or the week, whatever you like. You can see it kind of spreads all along the beach front. People camping all the way over here, all the way over here. Lots of camps, tents everywhere, all along Burleigh Hill. Now let's go back to modern, because it's really interesting to look at. Obviously, this isn't Christmas time photo, but still to this day you can see lots of picnics, but no tents. I think if you were probably gonna pitch up a tent here, you might honestly get arrested for that nowadays, which is interesting to think about. Little big difference from back then to now. We've got car parks. If you were to park anywhere but a car park nowadays at Burleigh, your car would probably be towed and you would be given a big fine. Beaches, actually, from this photo, you can actually kind of tell that the beach has kind of rescinded back a little bit, because you can see in some of the other photo, well, this photo, let's stay on this one, you can see that it kind of, the angle, you can see the beach is actually quite a lot bigger. It might just be that time of year, but I think with the amount of dredging and work that we put into erosion mitigation nowadays, it's it used to be the beachfront would be sort of a lot closer there anyway, but still beautiful beaches, big difference. But this little video today, I thought we would explore a little bit of the history. We've already looked at the 1930s, but we can go even further back into camping. And Burleigh, the traditional owners of that land are the Yugambeh people, the Yugambeh language groups, that's the First Nation groups there. And they have been camping in that area for tens of thousands of years. I'm not an expert on this subject, but there is a fantastic book about the Yugambeh people, the Combomeri Saltwater People by Zola Best. It's a really good book. That's pretty much what most of my research here is based on in terms of the First Nations peoples. And it's a fantastic book. I'm pretty sure her grandson is still doing work on the Gold Coast, but I'm not quite sure about that. Something to look up later. But when we think about First Nations camping in this area, we can sort of look, I've got a visual here. Now, this isn't a drawing of the Yugambeh people, but it is certainly something that would have been quite similar in terms of camping. The word in Yugambeh, which I should know off the top of my head, but I don't, is the word for a camp is a dimun. Dimun. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's what they would call it. And people have been camping out for tens of thousands of years, like I was saying. And people probably camped differently back in those days. But without a doubt, we know for sure, thanks to a lot of archaeology and a lot of historical preservation by the First Nations communities, we know that this site was a very important one. We can look at the Djeldjulgal Museum, Djeldjulga Museum on the Telebudja River. In Yezola Best's work, she also talks about the lifestyle of camping at Burleigh in that area. And it's sort of said that back in the day, the Telebudja River was just full of so much life that you could just reach down and grab your dinner, which, considering how important that waterway is, I really don't doubt it. And even now you can see like stingrays, there's fish, there's a lot of life going through Telebudja River, even with the amount of, human activity and overfishing that has happened there, post-colonialism. But these campers, these traditional campers, really camped in a very special way. Not for holidays, but more so for daily life. And if you go to the Djeldjulga Museum, they'll tell you about the corroborees and these sort of like celebrations that Burleigh Head basically was used for, you know, weddings, funerals, big community celebrations were hosted there. And there's been a lot of preservation efforts to keep those sort of sacred sites that way. And it's a really important area. But in saying that, lots of groups would have come to this area for those celebrations, much like our photo of Christmas time at Burleigh. We can see it's jam-packed, full of people. That's a different photo. We can see this place, just like here, Christmas time, being used as a place of celebration because it's such a beautiful area, Burleigh Hill. So yeah, it's kind of always been a very important place for campers. Specifically for the Yugambeh language group, it's a really important place of corroboree and meeting and celebration, things like that. Now, post-colonial, this video is obviously not within the scope to talk about all the colonial efforts, but we definitely know that there was some colonization in the area. There was colonization, not some. And the native people, First Nations groups were removed from this land forcibly. And there is, again, probably not my area of expertise, not my, probably not within the scope of this video to go into it, but colonial area, there was some violent murders in the area. There was actually a shooting at Burleigh Hill. I'm not sure what year it happened. Again, refer to the historical work by the Yugambeh people. They have a museum up at Logan if you're more interested, but get into that. In terms of camping history, the camping history in Burleigh, sort of as colonialism starts to grow in the area and very sadly the First Nation peoples are removed, you start to see this settler camping. So the white settlers who are settling in these areas, while traditionally there is this kind of notion of coming with a homestead and this building of civilization, which in itself is sort of like a bit of a white supremacist view of history, where it's bringing civilization to this area where it's already had a civilization. It's already had this wonderful history where people have survived on this land. And, the white settlers, without the crops, without the food, without the livestock that they brought from Europe, they really could not have survived in Australia. If they were to, come without those crops and without those sort of things that was never in Australia, they definitely would have had to live like the First Nations people if they wanted to survive, which generally they actually pretty often did. I've got a photo here, not a photo, illustration here. Now this one is from, let's get a year. Oh, what year is it? This is photo number 2. You can see I'm very prepared. Actually, let's look on here. Let's go to, this is what this is based off, by the way. This is, my research. I have done some research for this. Again, not an expert, but there are some interesting things to talk about. Number 5. That's what we're looking for. Reference number 5, display number 2. There's a number right there. 1879, that photo's from. So you can see in this photo we have some tents, we have some camps, but we've also got some homesteads, some houses. And this is a big part of camping history in Australia. When the first fleet came, they brought 600 tents. They brought 600 canvas tents to Australia. So even in the colonial mission of Australia, there was still this idea of camping was a necessary part to live in Australia. And that's obviously, if you're going to be in Australia in this time, there's really no way to do it except camping. But you can see here that even with people building building wooden structures to live in, they still have the canvas tents, and you can see it's like kind of this quasi mix of both. And um, this really shows the importance of camping in Australian history. As you know, even with colonialism, you still have a very desperate need for housing, which basically comes down to camping, canvas tents, which were not preferable. They really leaked a lot, and obviously strong winds can, blow them over quite easily. But you have to do with what you got, and that's pretty much how Australians lived for a very long time after settlement. Some of the first people on the first fleet, they camped for about 2 years before they even had their own sort of wooden structure to live in. And this is for a lot of reasons, but Australian wood is notoriously very strong, very hard, and camping was basically necessitated for quite a long time in Australian history, especially for squatters who sort of started, expanding on the colonization, reaching out to further areas. Essentially, if you're going to do that, you can't just plonk a house up straight away. You do need to camp there while you're building that house. And so what we see is, as this sort of expansion grows, you see actually quite a lot more of camping. Got another photo here, photo number 3, which is from 1852. An illustration, not a photo, illustration from 1852. That's not on the photo, is it? Drawn somewhere? Nope. And yeah, this photo is essentially photo. I keep saying photo. This drawing is basically an illustration of how workers in Australia, as the expansion was growing of colonization, this lifestyle of logging, sort of gold panning, really necessitated that camping lifestyle, moving out into areas that were unexplored by white Australian or the white settlers, and essentially, camping and extracting resources and then moving on to the next place. And you can see how important camping is in this photo. You've got wooden posts, still, quite simple. And you can also read some of the writings from the explorers and the colonialists. Back in this day, you can see quoted. Let's get it up on here, actually. Quoted. What's his name? Should I write this could be a script, but that would take effort, and so that's why we ramble. We ramble because it's easier. But hey, we're making something, so that's all that matters. 19th century settlers would find out travelling the Australian land somewhat necessitates a form of camping, as much as they wished otherwise. Now I'm just reading my own work. This is a script now. The form of camping performed by Indigenous peoples in the region surrounding Burleigh was praised by Surveyor General Major Thomas Mitchell in the 19th century, calling it very comfortable quarters in bad weather. In this period of Australia, in Australian history, camping was inescapable. If you wanted to explore the land, or if you were building a house, you would have to be camping. Canvas tents in this period were not immune to weather, nor were they sturdy. These canvas tents would leak if it rained, and a strong wind would collapse them. As people began to assemble structures from wood or brick, their canvas tents did not disappear. They simply became sturdier, as you can see in that photo before. And you know what? I find it interesting that a lot of people talk about Indigenous history in a way that's sort of, because they didn't have structures of wood, because they didn't make brick buildings, then therefore they were not civilized. But ultimately, what allows these colonialists to build these structures are things from Europe, are things that really didn't exist in Australia, right? The growth of cities in Europe and stuff like that comes from the ability to domesticate certain animals and to harvest certain crops. Australia just did not have these things, right? And so it's really those things that allow the beginning of building these structures in Australia. And it's not to say that Indigenous people didn't build structures, but this view of Europeans that because they didn't build structures like they did in Europe, therefore they weren't a civilization. And obviously this is just wrong, because even the colonialists who are exploring this world, Australia, find that camping is just the best method. Okay, you can bring your stuff with you, disassemble it, and move to the next place, right? Just like many First Nations peoples did, right? They moved around with the seasons. Okay, that is the Australian landscape. Natural Australian landscape basically just necessitates that sort of living. For most cases, obviously not talking about all of Australia. If you're more interested in that, definitely read some books like Dark Emu by Pascone, Mr. Pascone. But yeah, even in this camping history, we can see that this sort of racist mindset, the white supremacist mindset, that because they didn't have the structures like white people in Europe, then therefore they weren't civilized, and they were the savages, or as they would say. But as we know, just with this little camping history, we can see that that's just not true. That's not how it happened. But moving through the camping history, I'm sort of trying to build this case of how important camping is, right? I'm trying to build the case of why it is that Australians love to camp, and why it is that Burleigh, particular, there was this obsession of going there and camping. There was this massive popularity, sort of a century ago, really. And so, as we move through Australian history, our next photo here is essentially a, or is it World War One or World War Two? Let's find out. What number is this? 4. Display number 4. 8. This is World War One. So, in preparation for World War One, Australia did some work in Egypt. Did some war. Anyway, and I'm pretty sure this photo is from Egypt. Ooh. Let's find out, shall we? Egypt. Yep. The Australian camp from the pyramid. So someone is climbing on top of the pyramid, I assume, and taking a photo of the camp. Shows bird's eye view of tents and building Australian Army camp, possibly of Mena camp, Egypt, taken from nearby pyramid. Taken from the pyramid. Crazy. Wow, who did this research? They've done really well. This is a really good picture. Thanks, previous Sean. So, World War One, very important time in Australian history, proving ourselves on the international stage, as a new federalized country, if that's a word, federalized. We're a country at this point, recognized country, and you can see that World War One really solidifies this sort of camping culture, as pretty much every Australian soldier in the army is camping at some point. Even in this is not even a war zone. This is in Egypt at the time, in preparations for moving into combat. This is not a war zone. It's not a combat zone. War zone? I don't know. Don't know if that's the right word. But we can see another instance in Australian history where camping becomes even more important. So you've got during First Nations histories, you can see that camping in Burleigh, camping is really important as people move through the land. Again, refer to Saltwater People, that book by Isola Best, fantastic writing in that. You can see that settlers, obviously camping was necessitated and an important part. World War One, you can see that there's even some a massive push on culture to learn these sort of skills to get ready for war and get ready for combat. But moving past that, we're going to focus back on the sort of Gold Coast region. And if you're from the Gold Coast, you might be looking at this picture and be thinking, I don't know, maybe you might recognize it, maybe not. This is a picture from the Southport River. What's that river called? Google Maps. We love Google Maps. We're looking for TSS. Southport Racecourse. Where is it? Let's TSS. The Southport School. Right, you're looking right at it, dude. You're looking right at it. TSS, Nerang River. I thought it was Nerang River. Didn't want to say it and sound wrong. TSS, one of the first sort of official sort of structures that we see. Not official structures. Like one of the first like companies, private institutes, I guess you'd call it. The governor of Queensland in 1884 had a holiday home constructed in the Southport called the Summer Place. If you went to TSS, you might be laughing at me and thinking, wow, you don't know this history? This is like basic stuff. We learned this in grade 7. I didn't go to TSS because I won't finish that sentence. Sorry, TSS. I'm sure you're fine. But people who didn't go to TSS, now this is really specific to the Gold Coast. If you didn't go to TSSS, oh, the SS, you would know what people think of TSS who didn't go to TSS. Let's leave it there. Along with the rail line to Southport, the Gold Coast region begins to cement itself as a place of wealthy people from Brisbane as a holiday destination. So this is kind of like, in terms of our camping history, this is an important part because it's kind of one of the first times that white settlers see this place as, these colonialists start seeing this region as a holiday destination. And you start to see this sort of expansion really start to grow as the sort of Brisbane population grows, and you start to see this pushing of First Nations peoples away from their lands more and more, with the Queensland Police Front, which are really unknown, really underrated. I wouldn't say underrated. Underknown. More people should know about the Queensland Police Front. Basically, an official part of the Queensland government pushing First Nations peoples off their lands, and really ramping this up as you see post Federation. You can see it really starts to ramp up, and there's been some great archaeological work digging up bullets and things like that to sort of highlight this part of Queensland history of the explicit extermination of First Nations people from this land, which, again, if you're interested in that history, there's a lot of good research out there. Definitely give Queensland Police Front a look, a bit of a research. That's a good one. But as this holiday as the Gold Coast starts to be known as this holiday destination. Essentially, it really starts with these sort of like upper wealthy class. As in these times, most Australians, 99%, 95%, barely have weekends. Like they are working 7 days a week, 16-hour days. This is pre-industrial. Union sort of workers' rights start to come to be. But it's photo number 7, which is from 1892. 1892. Maybe I should put notes. Should have put years on this lesson learned. You can tell this is my first time doing this. So, 1892. Was that 1892? Because if that was, hold on, let's read. Let's read. 1880s, right? 1884. Yes. Okay. So yeah, that's why that one was first, because it was before this photo. A photo was taken in 1892. See display 7. Displays the Burleigh Hotel. What? Not the Burleigh Hotel. Displays the Burleigh region as a beachside bushland perfect for camping, or an opportunity for cheap development space for luxurious hotels. Hotels were expensive to build far away from a big city. A Burleigh hotel in 1900 is not only used for holiday makers, but also as a pastoral of farmland. See this photo. Burleigh Heads Hotel. I'm pretty sure this is on the Burleigh Hill. Like you can kind of see that it's on the hill. Now the Burleigh Hotel, for people who live in Burleigh, it's not on the hill, but as you can see in this photo, it used to be. How cool. But yes, it wasn't just a hotel. It was also basically farmland, pastoral for horses. As you can see, the horsies in the picture. Hello, horsies. So yeah, this is pre-Federation. But you can see as the turn of the century comes, this is the time where that wealthy class really start to see this area as holiday destination, and that sort of expansion really starts to happen. I have a great photo here. This photo number 9. Photo number 9. Display 9 shows a group of people camping at the beach on Burleigh in 1911. They would have most likely taken the train to Southport, walked with their canvas tent to the Nerang River, hired a ferry to cross it, continued walking down the beach for 10 or so kilometers. 10 kilometers, quite a good walk. But you know what? It's a great spot, so that's what we love. It was looking for an ideal camping spot. They most likely picked this spot because there was no one around. It had good shade, and there were no signs expressly forbidding camping. In Australia, up until the 1960s, it was an unspoken rule that you could camp wherever you want, as long as it was not expressly forbidden. So, was this someone's private land? I'm not sure. We'll talk about that later. But what we do know is this area would not have been expressly foreboding camping. Because that was essentially in Australia, you could camp wherever you wanted, as long as there wasn't a sign that said no camping. That was generally the rule. So let's have a look at this photo. I think it's a really interesting photo to look at, especially now that we know 1911. This is pre-industrial rights that we sort of take for granted nowadays. Most people are working 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. If they're sick, too bad, so sad. If you don't work, you're probably going to get fired. So we know that these people are probably of the upper wealthy class. So I don't know much about. I couldn't really find much about the people. I don't know who took who they are, but you can make an assumption because they are camping. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tents. You can tell that they're camping. They're on holiday. They're probably from the wealthy class. But it's really interesting to look at because, if you're in this wealthy class, even the wealthy class are camping. And, nowadays, we refer. There's a word called glamping, which I don't use that. Maybe it is like a class word where it's like, oh, I'm glamping. I'm not sure. Let me know. Do you use that word to say like, oh, rich people, they glamp, they're glampers, or is that more of just like, because even if you're camping nowadays, it's not like, I don't know if that's seen as rich. Like, it's definitely not seen as a rich. It's seen as something. I feel like there's not really a class divide there. Is glamping class divide? Who knows? Let me know. But definitely in these days, it definitely was. It was more like holidaying. The fact that you had time to go on holiday, you were for sure had some wealth. But yeah, you can see even in this period of history where the wealthy class are the only ones who are taking holidays, you can see that they are camping. Australians love to frickin' camp, and they love to camp on Burleigh, at Burleigh, on Burleigh. They are on Burleigh. And yeah, you can see beautiful beach, lovely bush, right here. Just a fantastic spot. They've got the tent under the tree, good spot. That's not a great one. That's going to get hot. I would probably pick this one because the sun's going to rise here. So in the morning, you can get a good sleep. You won't get too hot. That one's probably... Or this one. You know what? This one's probably going to get hot as well because the sun's going to rise here. I'd probably camp in this one. Little trick for you. Let's look at some of the stuff they got though. You can see in this photo, all quite well dressed. They've all got their fancy hats with the bows on them. The men are wearing suits. The kids have got clothes. I don't know. The kids have got some nice clothes, so surely that means... Can't really see much. They got hats. They look like newspaper boys. You can see their equipment. They've got some cutlery. You can see that's probably bread. I don't know. But yeah, they would have probably had enameled stuff. Not ceramic. Enamel would probably be the go. We can't really tell too much more about it. They got a nice table. Yeah, they look pretty. They got some equipment, so they're probably wealthy. They were able to catch the train, catch the ferry, and get here. So they're probably, again, wealthy class. So yeah, and this time you get camping, holidaying in general is generally just a wealthy class activity. Or you're doing it as a necessity for your work, for your colonial expansion. That's really the only camping that's happening at this point in history. This whole holiday camping idea is really just for the wealthy class. But it kind of is really in colonial history the first time that you sort of first-ish era that you get this holiday camping concept. Now, with the construction of the bridge over the Nerang River and the production of cars in Australia, we start to see a growth in camping holidays. I don't know why camping is in quotation. Camping holidays. Yeah, that's what it is. And yeah, this photo is from the bridge over the Nerang River in 1925. So between 1911 and 1925, some major industrial action is taken by unions in Australia. The 5-day work week starts to become a thing. Weekends become a thing. Annual leave starts to become a thing. Not 1925, not the spread out everywhere in Australia, but you start to see it start to become a way more bigger thing. But 1925, this is taken. But in the late 1920s, the Australian economy starts to really suffer as, a lot of our trade partners start to go through the Depression, and there is this sort of the poor class really starts to suffer in this period, especially farming and things like that. But well-off city dwellers are still looking for an escape to the bush, sort of that cheaper form of holidaying. Still, in that wealthy class affording to go on holiday, but that idea of holidaying camping to holiday, continuing to grow. Now, around this period as well, I don't have any photos of this. Let's see if Google can quickly give us a photo. I'm just going to check if I'm still recording. Looks good. Sussos Camp, Australia. Let's see if we can get some pictures. There you go. So if you don't know about Sussos camps, this is not great research. This is just Googling. But Sussos camps, I think in Australian history, especially in late 1920s, where you start to see during economic depression, outside of cities, government agencies start to fund and support the poorer class to live in camps, to essentially camp outside of cities. And what you start to see in 1930s is early 1930s as well. What you start to see is that these communities of the poorer class are really kind of flourish, not economically in this time, but culturally start to flourish as a sort of connectedness. If anyone who's been camping, you very quickly you find, if your neighbors are friendly, you can make friends really quickly and easy. And this happens widespread across Australia in the early 1930s. As you can see, these sort of relief camps or sustenance camps, as they were called, or Susso, as Aussies are to do. We made a nickname that ended in O. Susso camps all over Australia, Brisbane, definitely, but Melbourne and Sydney a lot more. You see these things. But again, camping, Australian history, there's really a lot of parts that sort of support this celebration almost of the camping culture. So after 1930s, that's me. 1930s, we start to see the workers' rights mixed with economic growth kind of start to build, right? And you start to see when people have their 2 weeks off holiday a year, you start to see the massive expansion of camping at Burleigh. People have always wanted to do it. Now they have the money and time off to do it. Australians, for the first time in history, are starting to be paid to go on holiday. Any Americans watching? Haha. 1930s, we started. Some of you don't even have it. Anyway, Australia starts to do it in end of 1930s, mostly 1930s. Just a quick stat to really highlight this economic prosperity that happens from the end of the 1920s to the end of the 1930s. At the beginning of the 1920s, many Australians had never heard a radio before. Never even heard one. Go down to the milk shop and they're playing the radio, right? It's the beginning of the 1920s. Almost no Australians have actually heard a radio, right? By the end of the 1930s, 66% of households owned a radio. So we've gone from, most Australians never even hearing a radio to within 10 years, almost all Australians, majority of Australians own a radio in their home. And so with that economic prosperity and that economic expansion, obviously that's not spread out evenly across Australia, especially First Nations groups, definitely sort of, away from that prosperity growth. But for most Australians, this is where we start to see this ability to go outdoors for leisure activities. From the 1930s, domestic tourism in Australia was stimulated by the prosperity of a modernising economy and a growing cultural attachment to the outdoors and the beach in particular. The main economic factor that encouraged Australians to start spending days or weeks holidaying was the introduction of federally mandated annual leave. Annual leave was present in the 1920s, but only became widely introduced in the 1930s. Widely. Many Australians now had 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks, which they were paid not to work. Again, America, 1930s. Almost 100 years ago. Pretty much 100 years ago. Where you had federally mandated annual leave. Anyway, very quickly, the month of January was chosen by many Australians to start spending their holiday. January holidays, campers. Can't agree. I actually don't agree. I'm a winter camper from the Gold. I mean, maybe in Melbourne, January camping might be better. Oh, it's like 40 degrees. Anyway, Burleigh campsites found themselves booked out through these months. Well, let's have a look. So photo number 12, which we're looking at. I'm not even talking about this photo. I've got it displayed. Right. So photo number 12, 19. This is 1900s. So the beginning of the new century, 1900s. 1910. This photo is right, 16. Did I reference that? Let's have a look. Hold on. Once again, we refer to the essay that was written. 1920s, yeah. You're correct, Sean. Rambling about the 1920s while showing a photo from... Anyway, 1920s. So this is where you definitely see this huge expansion of outdoor leisure activities in Australia. First photo, you can see lots of people at the beach. Let's zoom in and see. We've got a dog. Whose dog is this? It looks cute. Looks like a Jack Russell without a tail. And it does. Lots of people wearing hats and suits on the beach. Weirdos. You ever see people at the beach and you go, you weren't dressed for the beach. You got dressed and you got in your car. You weren't ready for the beach, but you're at the beach. Something changed in your schedule. These people definitely, obviously, put in the comments. What's the best thing to wear to the beach? You know, do you wear jeans over your board shorts so that you can get into, I don't know, a casino? You can wear, I don't know, can you wear shorts in the casino? Who knows? Yeah, we already see people have still got their wooden wooden poles with canvas tent, pegs. Still got very basic camping, but lots more people. Burleigh Hotel is not in this photo. I think it's right there. Maybe it's destroyed at this time. I don't know. Maybe it becomes a house and then gets destroyed at some point. But anyway, let's look at this photo. Whoa. Zoom in. Oh, look at it. He looks kind of ready for the beach. Got like spandex on or something. Or like a gym, a wrestler's. What's that called? I don't know. Yeah, you got this, even with industrialization, the economic prosperity, you start to see beach clothing is now a thing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like teasing these people about wearing suits to the beach, but swimwear wasn't even really a thing. So who can blame them? Who can blame them? You might ask yourself, why is there children making a human pyramid? Children, teenagers. Why is there teenagers making a human pyramid? Great question. Have I shown that photo? No, not yet. Not ready yet. It's almost there. We're almost there. In this period, you start to see private individuals or community groups, councils almost, start to introduce more leisure activities to encourage people to come to certain areas. Burleigh is one of these areas to sort of pretty early start to do this. One of the leisure activities seems to be a human pyramid. Gymnasts at the beach. Come see them. At this time, you would have seen newspapers. Would have seen newspapers start to promote these sort of activities, which we will look at later. Yeah, some beachwear, but yeah, generally most people are very unprepared to swim. Which, Hey, let's talk about swimming. Most of these people, let's have a look at them. Most of these people don't know how to swim. They don't know how to swim. Yeah. I mean, if you challenged, you could challenge pretty much any of these. Maybe not this guy. He looks ready. He looks pretty ready to swim. If you challenge most of these people to swimming race, you'd beat them. They don't know how to swim. They don't know what a free stroke is. They don't know what butterfly is. Right? This is pretty surf life saving clubs. Well, maybe not wholly, but certainly for Burleigh. This guy's got a towel. Wow, he's ready. He must be a swimmer. Yeah. Anyway, interesting photo to look at. Very different. Let's look at modern Australia. We got a guy with a wetsuit. Sorry, fella. I didn't ask him to be in the photo. This is winter, though. This is winter in Burleigh, to be fair, though. But swimwear, obviously a big thing nowadays. It's winter. I don't know why I'm showing these photos. No one's ready to swim. Next photo. Here we go. We start to see the beginning of the major camping culture on Burleigh. Burleigh Hotel, is it still there? I think that's it. That pixely picture. Yeah. Look how cool camping is. Look how cool. Right up, pull up your car right up on the beach. Parking spot. Who needs one? Renting a camping spot. Who needs it, mate? Who needs it? Just camp wherever. Camp wherever, bro. And hey, if you want to buy a house, actually not a house, a plot of land. If you can go back in time, anyone struggling to buy a house nowadays, go back in time to Tuesday, Boxing Day, 1922, the 26th. If you know what Boxing Day is, good on you. There it is. At 3 p.m., you know the exact time. You can go back in time and pick up one of these houses for one of these plots of land. Have a look. 16 pence. 16 pence. You can even take out a loan, one deposit, £1 per month. That's pound. £16, not pence. £16. Let's look up how much that is in today's dollars. I'm not an economist, but let's. £16. Maybe we should go inflation calculator. Inflation calculator. Bank of England. Surely that's. Oh. Yeah, accept cookies. Do whatever you want to me. 1922. £16. Calculate. Who wants to buy a house for USD? Why did I click that? Who knows how to use Google nowadays? I don't. Who wants to buy a house for $1,557.64? Anyone? I'd love to. I'd buy a plot of land. $1,000, $2,000. Who's got $2,000 on them? Who's got $2,000 on them today? Do you guys want to buy a plot of land for $2,000? Don't even start. Don't even start. $2,000. Anyway, blows my mind. Let's move on to the original photo that we talked about. So, photo number 16. Let's have a look at some of the details of photo number 16. Bonk. Get rid of that. We don't need that. Christmas, 1932. Oh, I guess that zooms in if I click. We start to see the real explosion in holiday. People have time off. People have cars. And they can drive from Brisbane to Burleigh. And they love it. Yeah. This explosion just continues through this decade as more economic prosperity, more leisure activities are introduced, and then even some safety things like surf lifesavers are introduced for those folks who can't swim, which we talked about. Hardly anyone can swim. So now people can actually enjoy the beach. They can swim. They can enjoy their life and go down to Burleigh. Don't know why I'm on Google Maps now, but go down to Burleigh and swim. They can swim and enjoy it. Oh, don't open Spotify. Get out of here. Go away. I'm so good at computers. Yeah, we can see we're filled with you can see there's even some structures being built now as this more permanent holiday place starts to grow. You can even see in newspapers the Queensland Illustrator for January 5th, 1933. Jam-packed! Look at how many people! Yeah, if you've been to Burleigh in Christmas time, you feel it. You feel it. You feel it. Yeah, I mean, it looks just jammed with people. Cars everywhere. People are kind of trying to be respectful a little bit. You can see, let's see if anyone's parked like a maniac. Yeah, let's just park right behind him. That's fine. Let's block him in. Look at that. That's just... Anyway, I will refer back to modern day parking. How nice. If you ever struggle to find a park, hey, maybe you should time travel back to the 1930s and just park wherever you feel like it. Block some guy in. Yeah. I mean, genuinely, looking at Burleigh today, looking at house prices in Burleigh, to think what it was like to just show up. Like, there's tents just on the beach. Who did you ask? Who did you pay? Man, like, do you just do this every year? I don't know. There's certainly some stories about families, they did have their spot. Like, every spot we do, every year we go to this spot and this is our spot and we love it. And it was lots of traditions that sort of formed in this period as well around camping. It's like specific times a year. The whole family joins, from different areas of Australia come together. And there's this massive sort of like cultural explosion of activities. This is a little thing you can rent. Talking about leisure activities growing, you can rent a boat. Wow. The luxuries of the 1930s. Yeah, we start to see surf lifesavers sort of start to become official organizations that are not only promoting that safety, of swimming and stuff like that, but you also start to see them come up as sort of the growing leisure activities. 1936. This is from 1936. Yeah. Once again, let's look at the beach. It is huge. That's way bigger than what it is nowadays. Beach erosion. It's a problem. It's a problem. Yeah, the Gold Coast puts a lot of money into ensuring that our beaches do not just completely erode. So, thanks, council workers. Good on you. Keep it up. Yeah. Anyone who's, during storms and stuff has seen the beach get destroyed, you can thank those boats that dredge and do that sort of work. I'm not an expert on what the economic damage, the environmental damage of that is, but maybe it is damaging. Something to think about. But okay, keep the beaches as beaches. More photos of this period of families, like I was talking about before. You start to see these cultures grow of like family traditions. We always go camping on this date at this place and do these things. I can't remember where the story was. I think it was someone talking about the Spit, actually, at Southport, which is a different area, a different beach. But they talked about how they used to there's like an ice man who would bring ice and sell ice, and they'd buy like a big block and they'd roll it around, and that was one of the activities of the week. Let's roll around the ice cube and see how far we can roll it. How fun. No comment on that. See some more photos of families. Again, you see this continuation of cars. There's someone, my esteemed friend. You see this continuation of cars being sort of cemented as a camping part of the camping culture, and this is kind of like perpetuated by the capitalist sales of commercialization is a better word of camping. The auto tent, lowest price tent, most easily erected. Hey, note car protection, made in a practical size, 7 foot wide, 9 foot long, in qualities of materials specified below. The ridge has a comfortable height, being 7 foot. All my 6 foot, all my short kings out there don't care about that. Corners and peaks are strongly reinforced. So we start to see industrialization hit the camping culture with the advent of, this. Well, let's look at the date. What date is this? I'm pretty sure it's post World War II. What number was it? 22. Oh. Let's see. Date. During World War II. No comment. Yeah, so you see the industrialization from World War II starts to bring about this commodification of camping. We can have a look through. Yep, that's right. We're looking at this one. Actually, I think my thing's better because we can zoom in. Oh, folding camping chairs. Ooh, Coleman stoves with your gas cooker. You have your thermal blue flame Kero stove. Kerosene starts to become a massive thing. How cool is it? You don't even need to start a fire. Just go for it. Kerosene, it's still pretty. A lot of this stuff is just the technology we have today. A lot of this stuff is still really used. Like anyone who's camps a lot, our chairs are a lot better than this. Like that looks uncomfortable. Anyone who's sat, I'm a heavy fella. Those chairs, I've sat in them before. They are not good. And this folding stuff, I'd break that for sure. I'm a heavy fella. Waterproof ground sheets. Rubber. Have you tried rubber? Waterproof tents start to become a thing. Actually, not waterproof tent. They don't become a thing in this period. But waterproof stuff starts to emerge from industrialization. And zoom out. 1938. Is that from 1938? No. Hold on. Oh, also this photo is a leisure activity. Something that could be offered in the area was, you want a family photo while you're camping? We offer it at Burleigh. You can start seeing that stuff advertised in radio, newspapers. I don't have any photos of that, but they do. 38? Must be from 1938. I don't have the year. Anyway, this is pretty much coming to the end of my ramble. The big ramble about Burleigh camping. This is from the other side of Burleigh. Let's look on Google Maps and show you. So this is probably from the other hill. This one. And you can see, sort of whole area. You starts to become a bit more organized with some roads for cars. Plots of lands are being bought, privatized. Camping. You start to see this really big growth of protection of private land in Australia. You can't just camp wherever you want anymore. And beaches start to become protected by sort of state laws, federal laws against just like free camping and things like that. And so you start to see the area transition away from a sort of do as you will. You can start to see camping sites being made. People buy the land, privatize it, and you start to see this more organized, structured camping. You have your land, your little square, your plot, and you have to stay towards that. which, benefits and downsides to that. Sure, people might complain, might say it was better back then. I don't know. I like when I camp. It is nice having power sometimes. Anyway, whole different topic. But yeah, you can start to see the Burleigh Arcade. Burleigh Arcade is now built. The Bowls Club still there today. Is that a war memorial yet? I think it is. Looks like it. I should know that when that was built. Yeah, this is kind of like coming to a close. This whole idea of just being able to camp on the Burleigh, right on Burleigh Beach. You can see the construction of a pool. I don't know. You know what? Maybe that's something I should research. I don't know why these are built. There's one at Bondi, right? Bondi. Yeah, maybe for sharks. I don't know. Tell me in the comments. Tell me in the comments why they're built. These little side pools. People who can't deal with waves. That's a hypothesis. Yeah, let's move on. Whoa. Much like my photos, I'm pretty sure this is a winter picture. But yeah, we see the growth of buildings. You can still see people. I wonder if this is people just leaving their sticks. Leave it, pass it forward, leave it for the next person. Because yeah, why would you set up your tent, set up the sticks, the wooden poles, and then just walk away and take a photo? I don't know. Don't know what's happening there. Burleigh Hotel. This is maybe the one that's still there. Obviously different structure nowadays, but I think that might be the same location. Yeah, again, growth of private enterprise continues until modern day Australia, where no longer can camp on the beach, except I lied to you. You definitely still kind of sort of can. This is Burleigh Heads Caravan Park. Caravanning, not camping. Anyone who tells you they're going camping but they're bringing a caravan, they're not camping. They're caravanning. As the writer of the fantastic book Born in a Tent, Bill Gardner. Bill Gardner. Born in a Tent. Fantastic book. If you have any interest in camping culture and Australian history, definitely give it a read. That's Bill Gardner's argument. As Bill Gardner says, that's what I was going to say. Caravanning is bringing your house outdoors, not being in the outdoors. Semantic argument, but I think an important one. There is still a kind of a camping area in Burleigh. Again, more of a caravan park, but technically camping. This is basically historic preservation right here. Essentially, yeah. The history of Burleigh camping is kind of keeping this campsite alive. And there's a few of these on the Gold Coast where, a developer has, put forward propositions to buy these places for millions of dollars. And essentially it's just not sold. It's protected by the council. This is council owned. As a kind of like historic preservation. You can see there's one right across the road, Telebudgera Tourist Park, which, yeah, again, has its own history of stuff like that. Telebudgera River, like I was talking about, super great history for First Nations groups, really interesting stuff. Definitely check out the Jelljulga Aboriginal Cultural Centre. They've got great tours. They will walk you through this lovely rainforest track and tell you lots and lots about the sort of ways of being in this area and the cultural importance, like I was talking about before. Again, read Saltwater People if you're interested in that, or go to the Jelljulgal. I don't know how that Jelljulgal. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. I should definitely know. I'm pretty sure that Jelljulgal. Actually, no. if you want to find that what that name means, go there, read about it. It's really interesting. I won't just ramble about it. But yes, these areas are protected by councils as they're kind of a historic preservation of camping history. And yeah, because there is a genuine unique camping history at Burleigh, which is now, yeah, very, very different. You can see we've got all this parking, anyone which is really historical preservation in itself. People have always parked their cars on Burleigh Beach, and you still can today. How fun if you want to go back in history. You don't need to. You can just park your car at Burleigh. How fun is that? Yeah. That's pretty much my entire ramble done. Could I have written this as a script? Could I have just read this? I don't know. Keep bumping that. I don't know. Was this any interest? Was this engaging at all? Who knows? But I had fun. Well, that's pretty much it. Like I said, ramble done. I'll finish off with a modern day photo of kind of mostly Burleigh Beach from the other side. See the headland there, Burleigh Hill. Yeah, fantastic place. If you're ever lucky enough to be here, definitely come check out a few of these places. You've got the Yugambeh Museum. Is it a museum? Kind of a museum. They've got a fantastic walk, a fantastic little tour you can do. You can see some photos here. It is located sort of, there's Burleigh Hill. It's kind of go down the road right there. You can start there, and it's this just fantastic walk around the Burleigh Hill. It's fantastic, definitely worth doing. Read the Saltwater People book by Yozola Best if you're more interested in that sort of stuff. We've also got, for any more historical stuff, we've got the Burleigh Bowls Club. They have their own sort of unique history there if you want to look into that. You've also got the Burleigh Heads RSL. They've got a memorial there. Actually quite an important memorial as well. They've also got a secondary sub branch sort of just down. You can literally just walk down here. It's a fantastic walk on the beach, which I'll tell you a little story about later. But where is it? Where's it gone? Right here they've got a little sub branch talking about Indigenous people in the World War II. There's a little memorial there as well. It's really lovely. There's a lot. This is just a little drop of history. About a really cool area. I've actually walked from this headland. We started here. We started there. We walked all the way past the headland, pretty much the entirety of Gold Coast Beach. Walked all the way to the end of this bit. Really lovely. Do that walk. It's a massive walk, but it really goes to show the beauty of the Gold Coast Beach. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I found this stuff really interesting. I've been thinking about it for a long time. It's a really interesting part of Australian history, camping. If you like camping, definitely read Born in a Tent by Bill Gardner. It's a great book. Check out some of the Burleigh historical preservation stuff that I just told you about. Thanks for watching. Let me know if it was interesting. Let me know if you've got any suggestions. I don't know what other history stuff I'm going to do, but I found this was fun. I found it fun. Probably will do a different one about something else. I don't know that yet. But yeah, if you got a suggestion, if you know of any other history stuff that is kind of related to this that you think I might be interested in, let me know, because I'd love to read about it. But yeah, thank you. Goodbye.